I'm going to talk mostly about the coal ash contamination because that's kind of where hemp can can be used to mitigate some of the toxins that are released. And so coal ash is basically like a byproduct of coal production as far as making energy. And right now, Georgia Power, a lot of the coal ash ponds are not in lined like ponds basically. They're kind of boron, mercury, things like that. And so when it leaks into our groundwater supply because they're not lined properly, it can contribute to fish kills. It can contribute to, if humans consume it, it can contribute to cancers and neurological deficiencies such as birth defects, things like that. Part of my work is I lead the environmental health action team at the Sierra Club because under this campaign, and basically we try to collect this type of health outcome data into kind of one space and basically put into some type of multimedia trailer so we can disseminate it to the key stakeholders and the general public. Aviva has told me some of the ideas for using hemp as a way to clean up the coal ash ponds because they've been unlined for so many years. You can't just dewater them. So right now Georgia Power is trying to basically clean them up and dewater them back into the natural streams, but that process is very uneasy to me. And so I just wanted to say a few words about that. And also, hopefully, this type of movement around using phyto remediation can be used to, help clean up these coal ash ponds, especially for the communities who live in close proximity to the coal-fired power plants. They're the most vulnerable because it leaks into their groundwater supply. But it also affects people in Metro Atlanta because it leaks into the Chattahoochee River and other major river basins. And you always hear about sometimes like our tap water being discolored or yellow. Maybe there was like a glitch in the wastewater treatment process as far as cleaning it. So just imagine, like we could be worried about raw sewage, getting into our drinking water, but what about the what about the coal ash pollutants? What if there's a glitch in the treatment facilities and then we end up having arsenic or boron, and that's a lot harder, a lot harsher on our bodies than like feces, basically. So hopefully, if you guys want to get more involved in that action team, you can come see me later, or you can see Neal, and we have a sign-up sheet to kind of check in, learn more about our updates and what we're doing. And also, we're currently in the middle of Georgia's 2019 energy plan. It's formerly called the Integrated Resource Plan, with the Georgia Public Service Commissioners. And basically, they're having their final hearing on June 11th, this Tuesday, and the Sierra Club is organizing a rally to kind of almost like a final call for call to action. Calls to climate change and clean renewable energy. And Neal has some flyers, but this is the event. It's across from the Public Service Commission at City Hall from 5 to 7. And then afterwards, we'll be gathering at Georgia Beer Garden, and we've invited the Public Service Commissioners so they can kind of, hopefully that if they come, we can talk more one-on-one, they can hear our voices, and kind of the public can be more engaged with this process. And this process only happens every 3 years, so this is pretty crucial right now. This process really ends in July, and then we won't be able to kind of engage as much until another 3 years.
Wow.
So thank you again for having me, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
Very welcome.
I'm representing two companies today. One is Sealy by Design. Come see me at my table, we'll talk about that. But I'm going to stand here and talk to you about what was recently the Georgia Hemp Industries Association. We got in a little trouble with the Hemp Industries Association for name infringement. So we went about trying to drop the association, but the Secretary of State said, no, that's too close to another company called the Hemp Industry, Georgia Hemp Industry. And what they do, they're actually a lobby firm. Some of you might know Wesley and Michelle Dunn from their efforts under the Gold Dome to get the farm bill and the medical cannabis bills actually in some kind of an order that will benefit people. So we've combined forces, and we're going to be soon known as the Hemp Business Bureau. And our main mission, thank you very much. Our mission with the Hemp Business Bureau is actually to be the gate or the bridge between, and the matchmaker between growers and processors. Under the new law, there's a catch-22. You can't get your farm license unless you have a contract with a processor. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to decline that call. And in order to get a processor's certification, you have to have a contract with a grower. So how's that not going to be a catch-22? So I want my license to grow. So, well, do you have a contract with a processor? No. You know, the processors are going to be, hey, we want to get us certified as being a processor. How can you do that? Well, do you have a contract with a grower? So we're setting about actually to bridge that gap. We're lining up processors right now with growers or people who are applying for a license to grow so that they can have the contract ready. So when they go to the agriculture department and apply for the license or the certification, they have that one hurdle already met. So I have a sign-up sheet on my table for the soon-to-be Hemp Business Bureau. If you want to be a grower, or if you're a processor, or if you know somebody that does processing, the processing does not have to occur in Georgia under the law. And under the federal law, because interstate commerce is regulated federally, no state can restrict the transportation of hemp as long as it meets the criterion of 0.3% or less. 0.3 or less THC. Now, some of the other things we plan on doing with the Hemp Business Bureau is actually establishing testing standards, because you know if you use the wrong test method, you can convert THCA into Delta 9 THC, which is what they're trying to outlaw or keep prohibited. It's crazy now that the Farm Bill actually has legalized THC as long as it comes from a male hemp plant. You know, molecularly speaking, it's identical. It's the same molecule. So there's plenty of fights left to go with all of this. One of the things that I still stress for people who are caught with possession is this concept of jury nullification. I didn't bring any of the Fully Informed Jury stuff with me today, but look up Fully Informed Jury Association, FIJA.org. You can just set it on the table right there. Set it on the table right behind you. Right behind you, right behind you. Other behind you. There you go, thank you.
Man's gotta eat.
So, as I was saying a moment ago, I'll speak until my food gets here. You can tell my mouth is watering because I'm hungry. It looks good. So anyway, as far as that goes, please sign up to get on the email list for the soon-to-be Hemp Business Bureau. We have questions.
Just finish what you were saying about Fully Informed Jury.
Oh yeah, go to the website, FIJA.org. And they've got all sorts of things you can download and distribute to learn about. Under Georgia's Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Paragraph 1 says that the jurors shall be the judges of the law and of the fact. Now, some of you here may have had history class and remember about the Fugitive Slave Act back in the day. And remember, they had to quit prosecuting people for that because nobody on the jury would convict their neighbor of acting in a morally superior fashion. Same thing with marijuana these days. Over 70% of the population wants to see legalized marijuana of any sort. So if you're in a jury pool, you can say, well, you know, that law sucks. You know, that law is stupid. You can acquit anyone charged with the crime under that statute in our Constitution. Because again, judging the law is really the duty and sort of the obligation of society. Because government keeps passing these stupid laws
That the society don't.
at some point they become irrelevant. And if you accede to the law, if you submit to being prosecuted for a law that's not only unconstitutional, also amoral, also, you know, not necessarily right versus, you know, moral right, legal right, moral right, legal wrong, we can stop prosecutions. They did it in New York. In New York, and they did the same thing in Colorado like 10 years ago. They couldn't get a conviction for a marijuana possession, so they quit arresting people. Same thing happened in the state of New York. The New York Attorney General in 2016 sent out a memo to all of the district attorneys and prosecuting attorneys in the state of New York saying, stop prosecuting for possession of marijuana. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste, and the thing about the police, for example.
Right.
Marijuana possession, chances are you stop anybody under the age of 60, they're likely to have, they're likely to be riding dirty, right? So it's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to prosecute. It takes the police off the road, puts them in with their buddies at the station, the BS and blah, blah, blah. While white-collar crime is rampant, other crimes are rampant. We've got, 120,000 untested rape kits.
Thank you.
They're not doing their job. They're bullying people over something because it's federal law. It's just easy pickings. It's easy to get their friends in the private probation companies a job. You have to go to rehab. That's another job creation.
Right.
And private prisons, all this stuff is ridiculous. We've got to stop prosecuting people, number one. But if you are prosecuted, ask for a jury trial and get the jury to understand that you're using this for your well-being.
Right.
You can't afford big pharma. 7 in 10 people in the United States, let me get the statistics straight, 1 in 7 people in America are on some sort of a pharmacological, FDA-approved drug for depression, anxiety, and all these other mental disorders of disease and uncomfort that can be treated with marijuana. Let's face it, marijuana is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy.
Amen.
So beyond that, I can also say that one of the things that I'm really excited about, I'm representing a new product called Sealy by Design. Sealy is a nutritional product that has every micronutrient, every mineral known to be necessary for total human nutrition. That's one of the things about our diet today, and even the crop soil that we grow crops in doesn't have the full complement of nutrients. You got to get it from somewhere to be healthy. We can kill big pharma. Every disease process has been proven by Linus Pauling. Linus Pauling, I think it was 1964, won a Nobel Peace Prize for proving that all disease processes are caused by nutritional deficiencies. If you have all the nutrients in your body, when the DNA, how that works, the RNA goes down the string of DNA to produce a protein or an enzyme or something within the cell. If the base ingredient isn't present in the cell, it's going to skip over that and go to the next one. So like if you have an iron deficiency, you're not going to be producing hemoglobin, which means your oxygen levels go down, which means you got all those antioxidant, all kinds of oxidants building up in your bloodstream. You're not producing, your cell respiration isn't working, blah, blah, blah. And the cure for that, iron. So, the cure for a lot of the diseases that we have and that people treat with big pharma right now are because of a nutritional deficiency. And again, it's a micronutrient, a micromineral, something like that. So in order to solve the healthcare crisis, we have to get people healthy. How to get people healthy? Proper nutrition. It's as simple as that. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you eat, even if you are trying to eat healthy, if you're not getting all the essential elements, you're not being nourished. So I will end with that.
And thank you for nourishing us today, Moonshine Organics.
Yes, thank you.
That motion.
All right. I won't announce any runs for any particular political office that may be coming up. But, watch derricks and oil pumping stations and pipelines and all that kind of stuff. Everything that those petrochemicals can do, hemp can do cleaner with actually compounding environmental cleansing
Giving me a song idea.
Hemp sequesters carbon. We got too much carbon in our atmosphere. Hey, let's plant hemp and pull that carbon out of the atmosphere.
Anything cool
Use
can do
solar
hemp, can do
energy
better.
to convert hydrocarbons back into something useful. Everything that hemp produces can replace everything that's used as a material in modern manufacturing. From the oils to the plastics to you name it. It can do everything. It's the miracle plant. It should be so abundant as a raw material for everything that people use to make things out of. It can even replace steel because hemp plastic actually has the tensile strength that doubles or triples that of steel or aluminum. This patent for nylon was granted in February of 1937. The Marijuana Stamp Act was rushed through in November of 1937. Prior to that, all oil-based paint, the oil, guess what? Anybody know what the oil was in oil-based paint prior to 1937? Hemp oil. You think Standard Oil in New Jersey had a huge stake in its prohibition? It takes a third of the water to grow than cotton. It doesn't require pesticides. It pulls toxins out of the soil. We can clean up the environment, lower our usage of water, have better nutrition, better medicine, better clothing, better everything. We have got to make sure that anyone that wants to grow hemp can grow hemp. So we just have to keep pushing. And if jury nullification is our final answer, then that is the solution. To tell government to go pound sand. Thank you.
Love you, Ted. Yes.
Thank you for joining us all day today. We just have so much to say about hemp. We gotta make it all day long. This is the longest hemp event we've done so far, and I just think it's so important. And it's true about the hemp fibers. I mean, the hemp shirts, that's why I returned the viscose hemp shirts and I got the actual hemp fibers, because I was lied to. They said it was going to be a hemp shirt. I didn't know what viscose meant, but when I got in touch with, it's through who you meet, right? It's through who you meet, it's through who you talk to. Through staying attentive on Facebook, someone posted about the hemp out there that's not really hemp, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And so the shirts were viscose hemp, which means that they actually add chemicals. Bad for your body, bad for the community, is that they put the chemicals in it and wash it in their river and their drinking water, and then they melt the hemp down to this other polymer, and then they put that in cold water, and then it's like this, this gunk. Good way to describe it. That spins into the shirt, and so you can't. I wouldn't have been able to wear that hemp shirt for 3 days straight if it was viscose hemp, because it would not have had that antibacterial property. Okay, so anyway, thank you so much, Ted Metz, once again, for all of your knowledge and for being so political and brave. So I'm excited to introduce Mary with Nuts and Berries right now, and they have just gone off the chain with the CBD products they've been introducing, and that takes courage as well with all the stigma with CBD. So she's going to tell us everything she knows about CBD. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aviva, and thanks to you guys for coming out. This is such an awesome event. So my name is Mary Geier. I am one of the owners of Nuts and Berries Healthy Market, and we are in Brookhaven, Georgia, so just north of Buckhead, just south of the perimeter on Peachtree Road. Our company has been in business for over 40 years. My business partner Kevin and I took over Nuts and Berries in 2015 from the owners that retired. Hemp, CBD derived hemp products, oh thanks. They actually have played a pretty cool role in our business development. And so as a small business owner, as a community-based business, I'm so excited to see all of these small community-based businesses, and we love to work with small businesses like that. But in somewhere around 2017, our business was struggling a little bit. We're an independent retailer, and of course we've got Costco and Kroger and all the big boxes all around us, and we were struggling. We didn't have a lot of support from our local government, and so we had things like a building put up right beside our building completely block our sign, things that were completely out of our control. And then all of a sudden people started coming into our store asking us about this thing called CBD. And so we had some CBD. We carried a couple of brands. Charlotte's Web, most people know about, plus CBD. They were the early people that were in the game in a big way. And so we had their products, and nobody could really train us. Nobody could talk to us about what is this CBD thing. And you know what they would say, and this is funny, is they would say, it's a different plant than marijuana. They're not the same plant. And so a little bit about me, I have an undergraduate degree in horticulture and an undergraduate degree in anthropology. I also have an MBA in finance. And so when the people came in and they said, they're different plants, I said, what's the genus and species? And they said, I have no idea. I said, I'm pretty sure it's cannabis sativa. And they said, oh, okay. I said, but if marijuana is cannabis sativa and hemp is cannabis sativa, Aren't they the same plant? No one could answer that question 4 years ago for me. They could literally not tell me the difference. And so me, being a chemistry science geek, I said, I'm gonna learn everything I can about this damn plant. Every single thing. I spend over 2 hours every single day studying about cannabis. Whether it's the cannabinoids in the plants, the hemp plants that we're growing and selling products from, or it's the terpenes, whether it's how to extract, how to grow, who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong. At Nuts and Berries, we pride ourselves in carrying only third-party tested CBD products. All of our products are derived from hemp, not from marijuana, and that's just because that's legal, not because one is necessarily better than another. One of the big deals, and we go 5 steps beyond everything, is I have to look at these things called certificate of analyses. And you'll hear people talk about, oh, if you buy a product, the CBD product, make sure they have a COA, that's a certificate of analysis. And that certificate of analysis is a chemical assay, so it's a gas or liquid chromatography report. Okay, so as a regular human being, most of us are like, why? I don't care. I don't want to read that. You should be working with a company that takes care of that for you. You shouldn't have to test and look at every one of your products. I, as a retailer, shouldn't have to take every product, every new product that I bring in, and send to a third-party test to make sure that it's actually what they say it is, because there's so many people out there that are not selling what they say they're saying. So a little bit more about our company and kind of why we do what we do. And so I decided I would continue down this road of learning, and learning about CBD. So CBD, or cannabidiol, is not the only thing in most of the products that are sold on the market. So everybody calls them CBD oils or CBD products, but CBD is just one of many cannabinoids, that's the chemical compound, that's in the hemp plant. Naturally occurring in the hemp plant is also something called THC, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. That is what gets you high. CBD, the chemical CBD, will never get you high. It does not bind to the receptors in the brain that cause you to have a psychotropic effect. Now, it does have a psychoactive effect, so there's different. You're not going to have a mind-altering event where maybe you change your view of the world, but CBD does work on our CB1 and CB2 receptors, and it helps to modulate these things that we naturally produce. The really cool thing, the coolest thing in the world, is that we have a system in our bodies called the Endocannabinoids System. It's a series of receptors in our brain, in our gut, all throughout our body. We even have an endocannabinoid system on our skin, and so that's why all these topicals work so well, and people that have arthritis and joint issues can really find some great benefit. And so CBD works to modulate things called our natural cannabinoid that works in our brain for joy and for stress relief, called anandamide. It modulates the production of that. And then in our body, we have an inflammation response, and we have a cannabinoid called 2-AG, and it's a really long name, not quite as sexy as anandamide. And so CBD actually helps to boost the production of that. So CBD, the chemical CBD, does nothing. It actually allows our body to heal. And that's why hemp, and that's why cannabis in general, is the most amazing plant. James will call it one plant. I definitely and absolutely agree with that. And so that's why events like this are so cool. Along the lines of the things that we carry at Nuts and Berries, we try to carry a little bit of everything. There are so many different ways that you can consume CBD or cannabis in general, and eventually in Georgia we'll be able to consume the THC side of cannabis, just not right now. But you can take it in an edible form, you can take it in a liquid form, you can take it in an inhalation form, you can smoke it, you can use it topically. There are so many different ways to use it. And we carry probably 35 different companies right now, because each company has a different strain or a different delivery method or a different way that they are extracting the cannabinoids, and we want to be able to tell the story. We want to be able to educate everyone that is interested in finding relief from sleep, relief from anxiety, relief from pain, and the list just continues to grow. Every day I read a little bit more. I always say to people, how many people have inflammation? And everybody raises their hand, because we all have it. And we all have endocannabinoid systems, so we can all find benefit in some way or another from the cannabis plant. I actually have a personal story that I like to share with people, because I think it speaks to the absolute power of CBD, but of specifically not just committing to one brand. And so that, as a retailer, it's my job to advocate for safe products for every consumer, but one brand doesn't necessarily work for everybody. And so that's one of the things we've seen. My first experience, major experience, was with Charlotte's Web. I had breast cancer 2 years ago, and I had to undergo chemotherapy, and as I came through chemotherapy, I had tried Charlotte's Web a little bit for nausea, and it didn't really do enough. And when I was through with my chemotherapy sessions, I had neuropathy in my fingers and in my toes, and I had it pretty bad. And as a, I used to be a pretty heavy runner, and as a runner, it just really shut me down. And I, after having tried the brands that we had, somebody had left a bottle on my desk, which is something that happens a lot in the retail industry. And I just picked it up and I said, let me just try it. 30 days later, my neuropathy was gone. Gone. The twitch that was behind my eye that I had, this central nervous misfire, constantly gone. And then I stopped taking the pills because, of course, I wanted to see whether that made a difference, and it did, and it was the difference. And so I wanted to understand, as an inquisitive person, why that CBD worked, but the other CBD that I tried didn't work. And that's when I started to get into the understanding that each different company has a different strain, and each strain has a different chemical profile. And beyond just CBD, the other cannabinoids in the products, the other terpenes, which are other constituents in a lot of plants, work in your body and direct how the CBD works. And so because CBD works, it's a pleiotropic compound, and so it works in so many different ways. And so the particular product that I tried happened to work for my neuropathy, but it also made me sleepy, and I don't like to be sleepy. I'm an energetic person. And so what I started to experiment with is, how can I find a strain or a brand that is going to give me a more uplifting experience? And that is why we carry so many different brands at Nuts and Berries, because I think that each individual can be helped, but I don't think everybody can be helped by the same brand. We, challenge everybody to ask questions, and we encourage you to pay attention to what's going on within yourself and where you're out of balance, because ultimately that's what CBD does. So today we have, a bunch of different brands over there for you to try in different forms, in liquid and in tinctures and edibles. And there are so many great companies here. I'm certain that everybody can find something that's going to work for them. So if you have any questions, we do free education at Nuts and Berries on a regular basis. So this month we just did one. I'm speaking next Tuesday if you subscribe to our newsletter or you get on our website at an event somewhere. And then I'll be speaking again in July. And then in August we're having a huge event where we're going to have CBD vendors there. We're going to have local food vendors. It's called Grill and Chill. We'll be infusing burgers. We'll be infusing everything. We'll have so much fun with it. So it's all, and that's really how we're going to get our message out to people is one-on-one, person to person. So again, my name is Mary Geier, and I'm with Nuts and Berries. And thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you, Aviva. Awesome event. Awesome event.
Yeah, it's amazing how many smart people are here today. I love it. We got to use our intelligence. We're not dumbing ourselves down. We're eating the awesome nutrition. We're using power plants for goodness.
No, we've been selling.
So, thank you, Mary. Thank you for having an amazing store, which perhaps is expanding. And we have a special treat before our next speaker, who's going to teach us a little bit about the mind-body connection. Little song that is supposedly the best song about weed out there, and it's sung by. Is this sung by you?
I'm singing it, darling, and I'm playing the piano, and I wrote it.
Well, come and introduce yourself.
No. First, play the song. Let me see if people like it first. They might
Okay.
it out.
Well, okay.
They don't like it.
So before we play the song,
Wait a minute.
to have a better chance that you'll enjoy it, we're gonna practice a little relaxation technique to get in touch with our parasympathetic nervous system, because the sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. I gotta do this, or I'm gonna die. Okay, but the parasympathetic nervous system is like, I'm okay. You're okay. We're amazing. So we're just gonna take a breath in for 5 seconds. Stimulating the vagus nerve. Breathe out for 5 seconds. And again. And release. And one more time. And release. Sigh if you want for extra vibrations. Okay. One more. Let's vocalize a little more. Vocalization also gives it that extra charge. All right, let's hear this song.
gotta get this t-shirt.
You need it with my card too.
Yeah.
I'm legitimate. But I'm not.
He's legitimate. What's your name?
Wesley.
Aviva.
Hi, Viva.
Hey,
Pleasure
good to see you.
And you go to the machine, right by the back. Hit the girl saying, machine. I guess to some of you it's been fun hiding it from the law and thinking of all those sneaky little places that they never saw. But people, we human. Nobody likes it nice. Somewhere it gets legalized, it might lose its spice. But when I don't have to worry about who's at my back, you be going up to the machine and buying it by the pack. Now it might put a bad hurt on Mr. Zigzag Feet. He's been lucky for all these years. Look at all the money he made. And you sloppy J-rollers won't waste your stuff. You just unzip your wrapper. You'll be ready to puff. Won't it be nice? Then you go back to the machine, buy the pack. There you go. I'm like a preach dude.
Oh, Lord, he thinks like a preach. Go ahead.
There's something I've been wondering. You juries and you judges and you DAs. How you gonna pay back all the lost years in society as a whole? How you gonna pay back for your uneducated fears? That's gonna stick in my heart. And I hope that you can find some peace when they learn the facts. Everybody's at the machine. And they're buying it by.
Yeah!
I'll plant my seed and throw it in the back.
Telling about all these beautiful children.
This song, some people like it somewhat. Half a dozen people through my life that I played this for, we be friends before they hear this song and they say, you belong in Guantanamo. That's wicked. That's an awful thing. Why you do that? And I can't, people I'd be drinking with in a bar in Thailand, good people from Ireland, for instance, and they hear this song, and our friendship is out the window.
Wow.
From hearing that thing about the end thing.
We still love you.
Thank God.
That's it.
Anyway, thank you.
I had this woman come up to me after, and I was announcing about, you just want to smoke weed. I'm like, no, you can use it for fuel.
Thank you, Aviva. All right, before I get started with any of this, I just want to give you guys a small piece of the history of how I met Aviva. And this actually goes exactly to the whole point of this whole mind-body electrical stimulation, the whole idea of who we are and how we get to know one another. My wife and I were working a farmer's market in Powder Springs. We ran that one last year. We were part of that farmer's market last year. And just standing at the booth, all of a sudden, I needed to swing my head to the side because I felt a draw pulling me to that direction. And about 200 yards away, walking across a field, was Aviva. Hence, that I literally watched her walk across down the parking lot booth she stopped at. And we had a great introduction, a great conversation. I had never met this woman before, and we've been interacting back and forth ever since. The power of the energy that we put out and the energy that we have inside of us will draw the right people to us. And that's how I was drawn to Aviva. So I thank you, Aviva, for inviting us to be a part of the event, and for inviting me to speak. So for those of you guys, most of you have no idea who I am. My wife and I operate a local business by the name of Summers Wellness. We're the essential oils folks who are here today. And before you throw your hands up in the air and you're like, oh, another one of those people. Our focus at Summers Wellness is a complete holistic circle of care. It's not, here's an essential oil that'll fix everything. Partner with other holistic therapies, work with pretty much everything across the holistic spectrum to help empower you to take back control of your own health and your own life. There is no magic pill. CBD comes close. But there is no magic pill to completely get us to where we want to be or think we should be. It took me 20 years to get here. It's not going to take me 2 weeks to break it. You've got to make the commitment to yourself. This is a lifestyle change that helps you get to the end goal, which is ultimately to be the better self, be better tomorrow than you were today. A small bit about me and the reason that you see I had major abdominal surgery 3 months ago. Botched hernia operation I've been struggling with for 2.5 years. It took me 2 years to find the right doctor. And I was willing to suffer with daily pain for 2 years until I could find the surgeon that was going to do the job I wanted him to do. I fired countless doctors before that. So 3 months ago, I had that botched hernia mesh removed. I had a complete abdominal wall reconstruction done. And when I went back to that doctor at my 30-day post-op visit, he took one look at me and all the work I've been doing and my mobility, and he said, "What are you doing? Because you are 60 days ahead." Now mind you, this is 30 days after surgery. You are 60 days ahead in your recovery than anyone I have ever done this procedure on in my history. The fact that we're a holistic household, better food, organic choices, a full awareness of any ingredient in our home, and most importantly, we eliminated toxins from our home years ago. We don't buy any over-the-counter cleaning materials. Everything we have in the house, we know what's in it. There are no, obviously we're an essential oil family, so there are no Glade plugins in the house. But when you think about the toxins in our environment, and let's face it, that's the event that we're here for. When you think about the toxins, what are you doing to remove the toxins that you apply to yourself, that you wear on yourself, that you surround yourself with? What are you doing to shield yourself? How many people buy a shirt at the store and don't wash it first? I mean, that's one of the first things. Okay, I never thought about that until I married my wife. Because she was the one who's like, you don't know who touched that and where that's been. And that was number one. But all the cleaning products.
Being cleansed.
Where do you get your soap? What are you using to clean your body with? Anything that goes on your body goes in your body. So when you pay attention to the shampoo and conditioner, the lotions that you wear, perfumes that you wear, soaps that you use, hand washing, just imagine that that's all getting into your body. Those are toxins that your system has to filter through. Any one on its own could easily be considered safe. But what doesn't get considered when our government puts out these regulations and these safety protocols is the stacking of all of this toxic material, this bombardment of toxins from multiple sources. Who drove here? Any thought whatsoever in your car of not only the toxins that are in the environment around you that are seeping into your vehicle, but the ones that you yourself are putting out into the environment as well? Those are, again, that's more of the toxins that we are being bombarded with. I'm not saying that we're just gonna all get bicycles and bike around, or we're just gonna walk. But the awareness of those toxins, the awareness of the impact of the environment on you and your impact on the environment can go a long way to having you be better tomorrow than you are today. In regards specifically to the car, we always, when we set up a booth, we always bring essential oil diffusers for the car. You will never find me driving without my car diffuser going. because I'm going to purify the air in my car every time I drive in it. I used to drive for Lyft. I always ran my diffuser in the car, and I actually had people fall asleep in a 10-minute drive because they were so comfortable in the vehicle. But it's a little piece of the puzzle. Every change you make from today on is a little piece of the puzzle that gets you to your goal. Never let yourself be dissuaded by the fact that I'm not doing enough, or I can't find anything else to change, or this is too hard for me. Well, you know what? Take a look back and look at where you started. Where were you a year ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago? And as you progress through that, get past the hump. It's just like going to the gym. You're gonna hit plateaus. You're gonna get bored. Any lifestyle change, you will get bored. But over time, you start to break free of that. You notice little things. And then what happens, and it happens with every single one of us, you become an advocate. And you become the mouthpiece to help your friends and your family, who will all think you're crazy, to help your friends and your family look at, come out and say, come on guys, I can't believe you're using something that you threw away 6 months ago or a year ago because you realized how bad it was. The environmental toxins are one thing. Yeah, everything. Just look around at the toxic environment we live in. It's the reason that my wife and I chose the essential oil brand that we're with, which is doTERRA. When you talk about the emotional side of this whole process, it's one of the things that Aviva was mentioning. The big white display next to my table is a whole bunch of essential oil inhalers. Essential oils impact your brain in under 10 seconds and can hit every single cell in your body in 2 minutes. So if you have an emotional imbalance, if you've got anxiety, if you need help with focus, you can use aromatherapy to help balance that emotional spectrum and help you on the path towards wellness. Even the most simplistic ways to do it. So thank you guys again for letting me bend your ear for a few minutes. I'll be at my table for the rest of the day. If you guys have any use in this spectrum of holistic energy, we're happy to help. Thank you so much, Aviva.
Sorry I didn't come sing to you in the hospital. I really, really wanted to. Oh, so much love. Thank you so much. So did you learn something? That's what this is all about, right? I am so excited to introduce our next speaker. I don't see her. Jacqueline Echols, are you around here somewhere? Well, anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about her as she approaches the stage, I hope. But she is the president of the South Georgia Watershed Alliance. And I saw her speaking at a City in the Forest meeting. Do you all know about those meetings that have been going on about preserving our trees? And honestly, I really think, like with anything else, it's going to take a lot of grassroots activism, meaning if you see a developer, talk to them. Some of them really don't know. Whoever you meet, it's all about conversation and communication. And what's basically going on is when the developers clear cut the trees, not even leaving one, what they're doing is they're taking away our ability to drain our stormwater. So our sewage is overflowing into our drinking water. And as Jacqueline presented, I don't know if any of you saw the little video that I put out a couple of days ago where I filmed her speaking at the City in the Forest meeting. You would have gotten some information from that video where she says, basically, we are by law required to fix this sewage problem like 20 years ago, and we still haven't.
Piped under 75, 85 at the split that goes to Macon and the airport, and from that point it's on the southeast side of Atlanta, and it's actually daylighted. That means it's above ground, all the way to Jackson Lake. which is 60 miles southeast. So it actually flows to Altamaha, and actually discharges finally into the Atlantic as opposed to the Gulf of Mexico like the Chattahoochee does. I've been working on the river for about 10 years now as president of the South River Watershed Alliance. And we engage in a number of activities simply to raise awareness and support for the river. Has been very impacted by pollution. It was for a really long time, since about 1961. But a number of things have happened in terms of enforcement of the Clean Water Act against the city of Atlanta and now DeKalb County. So water quality in the river has greatly improved in the last 15 years or so. But to raise awareness, we do canoeing and kayaking. I mean, it is completely navigable from Panola Shoals in DeKalb County all the way to Jackson Lake, which is a distance of about 40 miles. So you can have a great time. Some pretty good obstacles because there are a lot of shoals. And to be an urban river and so impacted, it's really something to see. Everybody who goes with us on our canoes and kayaks, paddles, are really surprised at just how great it looks. It's impacted. It's an urban river. There's trash, there's tires, but it is really something to see. So I encourage you to look us up on the internet. Our website is southriverga.org, and it will tell you a lot of what I've already said. But my 10 minutes in the glow of this great event today is to talk about trees as stormwater infrastructure. I don't know if you know this, but DeKalb County and the city of Atlanta and a lot of other cities throughout this country have a really bad stormwater problem. And that's primarily due to development. It's just a reality. And development is going to happen. But one of my projects on the South River, as it relates to actually restoring the South River, because that is our charge, is to spread the word, work with DeKalb County, work with the city of Atlanta, about using the infrastructure, the tree infrastructure that we have, as a way of improving water quality, as a way of reducing stormwater runoff that not only affects the environment, and not only affects the South River, it affects folks downstream, it affects folks in the next neighborhood, because we all live downstream. And water is going to flow downstream. It might flow north, but it's still flowing downstream. Stormwater is very disruptive. It's very, it carries a lot of pollutants, and a number of folks have talked about that today. You can't, a lot of it is not treated at the wastewater treatment plant. As a matter of fact, stormwater is not. The kind of treatment it gets is the treatment that we have to give it. I mean, we don't allow the tree infrastructure to help clean the stormwater. All it will it's going to take downstream whatever it picks up along the way. And usually that's a lot of pollution. I met Aviva at a talk that I gave in the city of Decatur about their tree ordinance. I don't know how many of you know that, but Decatur is redoing their tree ordinance, at least they're trying. City of Atlanta is doing the same thing. Interestingly enough, nobody's thinking about retaining trees on development sites as a way to improve stormwater. Just in terms of the quality of it, in terms of the amount of it, and to lessen the impact as it flows from these development sites into neighbors' backyards or downstream somewhere. Yeah. You mean, there's no doubt about it. And so I'm working with the folks in the city of Atlanta, the council folks, and I assume a lot of you work in DeKalb County as well. But I think what needs to happen, there's no real connection with, politicians, council folk, folks that represent you, do not make the connection between how simple it could be to address stormwater. It's all about development. And the fact of the matter is that developers are passing on to everybody in this room that pays any kind of taxes or impacted by stormwater in any way, and we all are, they're passing that cost on to you, when actually it's a cost that they should be addressing as they develop. And the encouragement would be to retain trees in some way on sites rather than clear cutting them. I mean, the primary way that developers deal with development in this area is to clear cut everything. It's easier to put in sewer infrastructure, it's easier to put in water infrastructure, but they rarely do what's needed to keep the stormwater that they are really creating on their site. And that's what they should be doing. When you look at the benefits of trees in terms of stormwater, the leaves on trees slows erosion because it slows down the raindrops. The tree limbs absorb water, so they keep it from hitting the ground. The root system acts as a sponge and holds stormwater back for hours while it slowly trickles through to the stream or even to the stormwater infrastructure. So I mean, there are just numerous benefits that our political leaders are missing because they are so enamored with development. And I'm not anti-development. I'm just saying, if you're a developer and you're making money from your development and you're causing this problem, you should deal with your problem. That's right. You've got to make this sustainable. You should not be passing it on to everyone else, folks downstream, and just totally destroying rivers and streams and polluting the quality of life of folks who could live as close as next door to you. And there's a very easy way to figure out how much stormwater is created by raindrops. If you want to find out how interesting that is, just go to USGS .org, and they have a rainfall calculator. And you can put in the size of the lot and the rainfall and amount, and it will tell you how many gallons of rainfall are created. For instance, on a quarter-acre lot with an inch of rain, you created 6,789 gallons of rain. And when that hits an impervious surface, it all becomes fast-moving stormwater runoff. And it tears through, believe me. We did canoe kayak outing on the South River about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I don't know if the last big rain we had was April 19th. And the number of trees, the scouring was just along the river was unbelievable. There were at least 6 trees that we were down across the river, huge trees piled up like matchsticks. And this is a small river, And, we just have to do better. We just really have to do better. So I would encourage you, and I ended my talk by saying, the interesting thing is that I tell folks, you talk with the folks in watershed management, and they kind of listen and, go back and do what they're going to do. But the developer talks to the mayor. And so who do you think is going to get listened to? So, I tell folks, a lot of times when you're trying to change problems, you're talking to the wrong folk. You need to talk to folk who make the decision. So I'm encouraging folks in Atlanta, I'm encouraging folks in DeKalb County, talk to the CEO, talk with the mayor of the city of Decatur if you want to get something done about the stormwater issue, because believe me, that's who the developers are talking to. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? So, thank you for coming out and sharing that information with us. So you came to us, and we're not.
We're not prepared with what to do with all of that rain, the rain that we get. And I went simply because it was an opportunity. When she was talking about the rain, the water, the impact of the increased rainwater on Pool Creek. It's like, oh, what are we going to do about this? We need to raise the bridge. I mean, all of these multi-million-dollar solutions to just the increase in rainfall. And I said, number one, you aren't going to get the money to pay for repairing this bridge or removing it and raising it. So we need to start with some things and she did get it. Once she saw it, we need to start with some things that we can actually do pretty quickly and have an impact. And that is look upstream to see where you have discharges into this creek that may not meet code, and that can a business that can hold water back on their site as opposed to putting it in Pool Creek. Remove the debris downstream. So there are a number of things that you can do that are far short of talking about building a multi-million-dollar bridge, and they will work. You can do these things, and nature will help you. I tell folks, nature is resilient. It will fix itself if you just stop doing what you're doing that's destroying it and give it a little help. And she got it. I mean, I think that was a teachable moment, and I think that's what we have to do. But I'm in terms of talking with politicians, I'm not saying that the folks who do the day-to-day work cannot help, but they are not the ones who usually make the decisions, and that's what you need.
Thank you.
Yay! Let's give her another big hand for not only doing all the incredible work that she's doing, networking with people and getting up and talking. I'm so impressed by you and how effective you are with your words and just clear. And I really believe that with you and a lot of other people in here, that change is so upon us for our city. It's really exciting. And let us know if there's any way we can help you, because you took your time and you came out here today, and it's very generous, and we're just all so honored. So, yeah, thank you. So, Sierra Club is leaving right now. Well, the two of you that came. Thank you, Neal and Tori, for sharing about the event. Just a reminder that Tuesday is the rally from 5 to 7. I'm hoping to make at least the beginning of it. Did you want to say anything else about that real quick?
Yeah. Having this rally on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. It's June 11th. This is our best opportunity in our state to advocate for action on climate change, and it's also to transition from dirty fossil fuels that are poisoning our land, our air, and our water to clean, affordable, renewable energy, primarily solar power in this state. So this rally is going to be taking place at Atlanta City Hall, directly across from the Georgia Public Service Commission. They're the ones who decide how energy in this state is produced. They have all the power to tell Georgia Power what to do and how to do it. And they also set the price for electricity in our state. And we've found out that solar power is so much more affordable now compared to other forms of energy, that if we do not transition to solar power, we're actually going to be paying higher prices for electricity than we should be. So it's really unfortunate we're hearing that they're trying to cut a deal with Georgia Power to make very minimal decreases in clean energy, and that's not good. So this is our last chance. They're going to be making their final decision in the middle of July. This is the final hearing before that. So we really encourage you all to come out and join us. Like Aviva said, we'll be gathering at Atlanta City Hall this June 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. And the action's called #SpeakTruth2, GA Power, Georgia Power. And so yeah, we're really speaking truth to these folks in power who really impact our lives on a daily basis. They're putting toxic coal ash into our waterways. They're spewing toxic fumes and emissions into our air. And we can't just let that keep happening. So with y'all coming out and showing support, we know that they're going to start paying more attention to what we need. Get a flyer, I can give you one.
Feel the love, you know, like we're so driven by just wanting to do good, you know. I'm sure Neal and a lot of other people like are up till like 2 in the morning just trying to make a difference in the world, and just know that
hemp in the law, because what's wrong with everything everybody's doing here today? But we are in a situation, of course, where it is very relevant to our lives. So like Aviva told you, my name's Catherine Bernard. I'm a lawyer here in Georgia. I've been practicing criminal defense for 10 years, and as a public defender, I started seeing a lot of drug cases. Now in private practice, I ended up with a lot of them as well, and one of the reasons you may have seen some of my stories is we've had a lot of success around the state when individuals are charged with growing cannabis or possessing or using cannabis. You know, what's wrong with that? If they're not hurting anybody, why is it something that needs to be the state's business? And even though prosecutors and judges and politicians can be a little reluctant to accept this, I find that the people of Georgia, all over really, are really ready to kind of put a lot of this behind us and say, you know, we've got better things to do with our public safety resources than harass folks who are peacefully growing or using a plant. So it's kind of from that common sense background that I've developed a lot of the legal ideas that I use. And sadly and happily, we haven't had a lot of trials to report on lately, because every single cannabis case I've had since last summer, when I had a man who was growing marijuana and was found not guilty down in Lawrence County, the prosecutors have dismissed every single one of my cannabis cases. So
Yeah.
it's good news. We're really happy about that. Obviously, you know, the fewer people who are having to deal with the state, the better. But we know there's tons of these cannabis cases happening all over Georgia. There's still so much work to be done. And so what I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about today is kind of the current state of the law in Georgia, because the last legislative session with HB 213, which is the Georgia Hemp Farming Act, and then HB 324, which is the Low THC Oil
I'll first
Act. Be honest with you, I don't think there's a lot to get excited about in them. I think, you know, it's good that they're making a gesture. It's good that we're making an effort, but there is so far to go. So it's really quite the balance of, you know, we want to encourage our legislators. We want to encourage them to, yep, y'all are headed in the right direction, but unfortunately there's a lot about 213 and 324 that really, you know, they are not nearly far enough. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what is included in those two bills. So HB 213 is the Georgia Hemp Farming Act, and it was passed after quite a bit of pressure. You know, the Farm Bill, the U.S. Farm Bill at the federal level back in 2014 started authorizing states to do experimental programs relating to industrial hemp. So Georgia, whose, you know, number one business is agriculture, finally has started to get on board with that in 2019 in a very limited fashion. So again, not trying to be a wet blanket here, but just being very realistic. I think it's unfortunate that in order to get a permit to grow industrial hemp, that is a product that has lower than 0.3% of Delta-9 THC in it, you have to go through an extensive permitting process, which you can be denied for any reason. There's a $100,000 application fee. There's $25,000 a year for the first year in fees, and then $10,000 a year every year after that. You have to put up a $100,000 surety bond, and most concerning, I think, is that you have to give up your Fourth Amendment rights. So you not only have to provide the GPS coordinates of your farm and where you're producing producing the industrial hemp, but you also have to authorize the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, or any other law enforcement to come onto your property at any time so that they can check and conduct license compliance and really do whatever they want. And if they locate any product at any point that tests at greater than 0.33 THC, they immediately destroy it. And if it tests anywhere between 0.3 and 0.33, they'll retest it for you, but it's going to get destroyed if it is, anywhere over that very low limit. So, and I'll kind of say again to HB 324, which is the low THC oil bill that provides for limited cultivation of cannabis in state at several of our universities, well, 2 of our universities. And it also has those same very restrictive provisions about your Fourth Amendment waivers. Anybody who participates in this program is expressly giving up their right to have, to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures. And in fact, for the low THC oil producers, what's really concerning to me is that in order to get a license to cultivate cannabis for the purpose of making low THC oil, you have to provide a 24/7 video feed of your entire facility that is accessible to Georgia law enforcement at any point without a warrant. So, this is why I want to be positive. I want us to celebrate all the great advances we have made, here in Georgia and elsewhere. I think public opinion's really moving in the right direction. But I do want to emphasize that the bills that came out of the legislature, unfortunately, don't really reflect the step forward that they ought to. There's very strict penalties, even if you compare our penalties to those in other states that have done experimental programs like Kentucky or Pennsylvania, they have, very small fines if there's any kind of license compliance issue. Georgia is issuing, 4-figure, 5-figure fines and making it very easy for people to be shut down. So unfortunately, I think the conclusion that we can come to with the Hemp Farming Act as well as the Low THC Oil Act is we've made a difference. We've created the impetus for change, but unfortunately the politicians are still holding on to way too much power over a plant that grows in the ground. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about today is what you as perhaps a processor or a would-be processor or a cultivator or anyone else along the chain is what we can do now. Because I do want to, as I said, the people of Georgia are really far ahead of the politicians on this issue. And not just in Metro Atlanta. People think, oh, well, Metro Atlanta is so enlightened, and then the rest of the state doesn't get it. But the rest of the state, is used to agriculture, is used to the idea of people being able to grow what they want to grow. So I think that's why we've seen these successes in front of juries in very rural conservative counties where people might not expect to see these results. And I will note, I know we all want to, we don't want to play the race card or anything like that, but my clients who were acquitted in Lawrence County were both black men, so this is a situation where you've got, a jury full of, it was actually majority white men on the jury, although it was diverse, but, they were happy to let these men go because they knew that they weren't causing any threat to public safety. So I think at the point where anybody starts to feel like, oh, this is too big of a task, how are we ever going to convince people in Georgia to do the right thing? I'm here to tell you it can be done. It has been done, and it will continue to be done if we can just keep sticking with the common sense truth of we're growing plants in the ground that make people feel better. What's wrong with that? Why on earth would we need to spend our public safety resources interfering with that? And so what I want to encourage people to do is get involved at the local level on this. Talk to your local sheriff. Talk to your local district attorney. These are both elected positions. They're up every 4 years, so there'll be a lot of different people running in 2020. So talk to them. Let them know how you feel, how other people in the community feel about cannabis enforcement. Let them know what you're going to expect. Same with your state legislators. You can be polite and respectful, but also say, look, y'all have not solved all the burglaries and murders and rapes that are going on. What on earth makes you think you can take 1 dime of my tax money and go kick in somebody's door for cannabis? It doesn't make sense. And so these are conversations that, you know, we're having with these local elected officials, with law enforcement officers, with other people in the community, and it's making a difference. So I wanted to encourage you all to continue having those conversations. We are operating from a place of righteousness and truth, and that is really, really shining through. I will say, I even quoted Genesis 1:11 in one of my closing arguments about, you know, and God gave us, you know, every grass on the earth, you know, everything bearing seed. So, you know, it's really, this is something that it's not a left issue or a right issue or a radical issue. You know, we are the common sense moderate position. You know, let people grow a plant and use it how they choose as long as they're not hurting anyone else. So we are making a difference. And I would encourage you, you know, if you are involved in this chain in any way, you know, pay attention to, you know, people who are going to get their permits. You know, they've got to play by those rules. But I would also point out that, you know, the Georgia Constitution specifically says that in all criminal cases, the jury is the judges of the law and the facts. So that specifically authorizes Georgia juries to be the ones to decide how laws are enforced. And so keep that in mind, that, you know, it might not be the politicians that we have to impress. It might have to be your neighbors, your friends in town, the people who live next door to your farm. If they're on your side, if the people in your community are on your side, that's when you have the power to stand up for what's right. So I just wanted to encourage everybody to, you know, stick with what you're doing. It's so great to see so many, you know, wonderful smiling faces here, you know, with wonderful products that are available that make people feel better. And so thank you for all that you're doing. And if, you know, for God forbid, somebody should come knocking at your door, grab one of my cards and give me a call about it, because there is no reason that anybody should be taking a plea on a cannabis case in Georgia. So. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any now or, you know, right after this. So, yes.
Where your car is at?
I've got them right here in my bag, so I'll make them. But yes, I'm Catherine Bernard, and actually I will say I've also just started up a firm with a friend who does civil rights law. You know, if he sues the government over civil rights violations, so you can give us a call on either of those things. And you know, it's lawyers unfortunately are causing a lot of the problems, but then you need another lawyer to deal with the problems that those lawyers cause. Yes.
How does it affect you when the cases are being dismissed? How does it affect your bottom line?
Oh, my bottom line. That's, you know, I will say I'm very lucky. I have a husband who, you know, is very helpful in subsidizing sort of my public defender adventures. So, you know, I work with people, you know, I have some folks who are able to pay more than others, but I do try to make sure that, you know, nobody is lacking representation because of a financial circumstance in their life. But you're right, it is a challenge because and I will say it's not just financially, but one gentleman who was growing cannabis up in White County, you know, his case was dismissed with the jury waiting right outside, and it has affected him personally.
I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the perspectives that I had on the hemp bill that went through and where we go kind of from here. So one of the things that I talked about a lot on my campaign was the fact that Georgia, the agriculture is Georgia's #1 industry, which is really great in theory, but it doesn't really impact everyday Georgians. Most Georgians don't really get the benefit from all of the revenue that comes out of agriculture. And one way in which we can get more revenues into more communities, both urban and rural, is if we get more hemp cultivation in more communities. And so I'm a huge, fierce advocate for I'm glad that HB 213 went through. It's an okay bill. It was a lot worse, but we did a lot of lobbying, Aviva and I and a few others, to try to get that thing down. And it's okay. It's not great. Catherine actually talked about a lot of the issues with the bill that we're going to be lobbying on next session to try to eliminate some of those Fourth Amendment issues that are really in there, get down some of those high fees that are associated, and also we're still blocking out the people in agriculture who need to be a part of agriculture. We still have a problem where only 4% of all farmers in Georgia are black. And only, 11% of all farmers in Georgia are women. But according to HB 213, if you want to get one of these hemp licenses, you have to be a qualified agricultural producer at the time that you apply, which means that you have to already qualify for what they call a gate card, which basically is just the Georgia Revenue Department's way of saying you farmed so much in the past 3 years. I think it's $15,000 in revenue in 3 years' time, or you're expected to get that much revenue. So that means that if you want to start from scratch, if you're like, I got some land, I haven't farmed yet, hemp is a really big opportunity for a cash crop, I want to get involved, guess what? You can't. Because you have to start farming first, become a qualified agricultural producer, get you one of them gate cards, then you can apply for whatever this process they're going to create that I assure you, Gary Black is going to make it the hardest process you've ever seen, because he was a fierce opponent of hemp production and cannabis cultivation in general in Georgia. The reason why HB 213 was so bad when it first was initiated, we're told by state senators, who will not go on record, that he personally lobbied to make all of the fees and whatnot as high as he could make it. He wanted them to be astronomical so that one, his big pharma, big ag, off of, I'm kind of reverting here, off of this bill. The people, businesses, look at all of these vendors who are out here today making a living, selling products that are helping the health of their communities, reinvesting their money, small business owners who are being held up by a legislature that is stuck in the past, by commissioners who are stuck in their own feelings. This is not just an issue of personal freedom, although it is. It's also an issue of economic justice.
I got a question. How you gonna change the world? Are you gonna be the change, or are you gonna wait for change to rearrange you? How you gonna change the world? Are you gonna be the change, or are you gonna wait for change to rearrange you? How you gonna change the world? Are you gonna be the change, or are you gonna wait for change to rearrange you? How you gonna change the world? Are you gonna be the change? I'm not complacent, adjacent to a man impatiently erasing me and racing me. Are we a race that's free? Planetary times are chased with planetary changes. Are you with me when I say I see potentially we're here on heaven? How you gonna change the world? Are you gonna be the change, or are you gonna wait for change to rearrange?
That's right.
So what is it? What's in there?
Gotta come to the workshop. It's just hemp herd and lime.
Gonna change the world. Are you gonna be the change, or are you gonna wait for change to rearrange you?
Join me in thanking Aviva and all of the other speakers and our event host. The reason for the season, it's a really great crop. I've been told it's the seeds of change. And when I first heard about hemp, it was a few years ago, and I thought that it was codswallop and rubbish. And I actually set out to prove hippies wrong. So I was like, oh, hemp could save this, and it could save that, and it could save the other thing. But if we stopped acting so sensationalized, then maybe people would listen, and we could actually move forward with one thing. And my one focus was hemp for biodiesel. Actually, when you work in the oil and gas industry and you're an outspoken activist of hemp, they don't like you all that much anymore. But that's okay, because we still have hemp. So Aviva asked me to be here because the event is about hemping out the toxins. And for the last 3 years, my daughter who's here, Lainey with me, I have my fiance visiting from California, and Nikki, her friend. So we're really happy to be here. This is the biggest event that I've seen about hemp. And when I first got started in hemp, I thought that it would be a really, really great idea to use it as a biofuel energy input. Because for the last 20 years, I've worked to help companies drill deeper, extract more. That's both with water and with petroleum. So, sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I don't really know what I was doing, but now I do. And now it's time to fix it up. And so I live in Peachtree City, Georgia, and that's on a little bitty river known as the Flint. It's in the Flint River Basin. Has anybody ever heard of the Flint River?
Yeah.
Really, because there was this initiative here in Atlanta called Finding the Flint, and evidently they had trouble locating the Flint. And I thought, how is this? And you know, the way that they have trouble locating the Flint is because it's underneath, it's like headwaters are underneath 6 miles of impermeable concrete. So there's that. And then we have all these storm water initiatives. And actually, for the last 3 years, I've served on the Flint River Basin Advisory Council to the Metro North Georgia Water Planning District. And I got really excited when I first showed up, and then became the chairperson. And I was kind of a lousy chairperson because I didn't really like showing up because we weren't doing anything. And I kind of like to do stuff. And the reason why I wanted to do something with that river is because my daughter bathes in water that comes out of our faucet in that river. And I was kind of concerned when I heard that Florida was suing us. Our friends. I mean, I've got friends. Everybody heard of Florida? You've heard of Florida, right? Okay. And it's just south of us. And so I thought Florida and Georgia were friends. Like, there's bands and stuff. They're like Florida-Georgia line or something. But the actual bottom line between Florida and Georgia is that Florida's suing us for water quality and supply issues on the Flint River. So moral to the story is, if you want to be an inland waterway, do not call yourself the Flint if you're in the United States of America. Our Flint River is not just polluted by everything that hits those jetways, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. It's also polluted, all right, it's gross. You guys ready for this? Not the kind of girl you brush under a rug. Fecal material. Fecal material, because along the banks of the Flint River, there's a lot of aging septic systems. You guys rolling with me here? Yeah, and then that water comes down, we get all this rain, and oh, glorious rain. Thank you so much for coming and blessing us with your presence. Holy crap, what's that? Is it a tire that's being taken down into our stormwater drains? No bother, I don't know about you guys, I just got my biannual stormwater bill. And I thought, I don't think I've impacted that many storms. Right? And then, so we got trees. There's a lot of different ways to handle this. You know, you can use some of the natural cycles, and we can plant trees there because they're great, because trees are amazing. But they're not illegal to plant. So I'm super stoked that there are people that are helping us get more trees planted. And I think in the meantime, because trees kind of take a minute to grow, but hemp doesn't. Hemp takes about 4 months to maturation, and I know that because I grew it. My farm in Colorado. And because of regulatory issues and family issues and all this good stuff, now I'm going to help you with your farms because I don't have my own farm anymore. So the reason why I'm talking about hemp and fecal material in the Flint River Basin is because hemp is phytoremediative. And phytoremediation is a big old fancy word that's used to describe a process, basically a plant that's planted in the soil, and it leaves the soil better than it found it. So I can do by a variety of means. It can be a nitrogen fixer, it can pull heavy metals out of the soil, and hemp actually does that. I know, who knew? I was like, oh, if these hippies would just stop talking like this, they were right. They were right. It might not be able to save the entire planet, but I can tell you for sure it will allow for us to pick some of the lowest lying fruit that we face as a shared humanity moving forward. So phytoremediation is not the only thing that it can do, because then there's this other really neat thing called bioremediation. And I wasn't going to talk about bioremediation today because everything was about hemp, about the toxins, and I kind of was thinking about soil toxicity. But hemp can also serve us to clean up water. So if we put it in the ground and it absorbs all the nasties that we don't really want in the ground, and then if we take this hemp herd business that Aviva was talking about with the hemp bricks and stuff, if you pulverize hemp just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more, you come up with a material called hemp LCM, and lost circulation material or hemp lost collection material. And sometimes they use it as it's like a hockey puck. as a sprinkling over top of a body of water. And there have been quite a few studies done on it and its efficacy on oil spills. And if we just take this like super pulverized hemp LCM, and it's just that herd, it's just been broken down and broken down and broken down and broken down, it still contains amazing amounts of microbes. I know that Ted spoke earlier about it being antibacterial, and then we referenced like we're gonna wear our hemp shirts for like 3 or 4 days. I don't know if you guys are into that. That's cool. But it can also be antibacterial and antibiotic when I'm half hippie, so sometimes I don't try. Anyway, okay. So because these little creatures that live inside of the hemp stalk, it's by the way the longest, strongest fiber on the planet. And when we break it up, those little microbes, they don't go away. And when we take a very, very, very fine grade sprinkling of it and sprinkle it on top of the water that's been impacted by things like oil spills, all those little creatures, they eat that stuff up. It's like the ultimate in sustainability. And sustainability used to be that you would take somebody's output, somebody's waste product, and then use it as somebody else's input. But now we're just saying, oh, sustainable so we can continue. But I was in Australia when they were having the first sustainability conferences, like in 2005, 2006, and that's not what it was about. But I'm glad that we're talking about it now. So here's the problem, though. We can't grow it. Not meaningfully. I'm actually, I thought about like this whole, the kids taught me something, chaotic good. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do some chaotic good. I'm going to make some noise. I'm going to make some trouble. I was like, I'm going to bring some hemp seeds and I'm going to plant them in a solo cup. And get...
McDonald, he's right across the street from us. So give him a big wave.
Hey, Bubba.
It's not green. There's little pellets. I don't know if you could see it. Okay.
Wondering if you had stress because you live near the coal plant.
Not sure if y'all noticed, but at Waller's Coffee Shop, at our hemp event, a sunflower showed itself as growing, which is an amazing sign, once again, along with the Dearborn Animal Hospital. The Sunflower Project is being validated to clean up the toxins from the earth and use hemp products and phytoremediation. Sunflowers phytoremediate as well.
Those accountable for putting this waste in our ground. Though we appreciate gas, electricity, to our choices we're bound. Solar and wind are both viable choices now.
Oh my gosh, look who it is!
We can stay healthy with our few resources.
Holy moly, the sunflower has flowered. This is the most beautiful sunflower I've ever seen in my whole life. It is a sign. It's almost like it's a puppet. It's almost like it's not real. It's like, are you real?
There's a power plant too that pulls toxins right out of the soil with her roots as mushrooms and sunflowers.
Okay, now this is from the other day about the toxins. A bunch of people bought raffle tickets, and some of you left before the drawing, so this one is especially for you. But some of you were still there, and you didn't know you had another chance to win something, so here we go. The number is 278703. Now, you might have thrown out your ticket from that day, but you might still have it. And if you do, it's 278703. I'm going to give you, number 1 winner, a week to contact me, and if you don't, this number 2 winner is going to win. So here we go.